43.
42. 41.
40.
39.
Number 1.
39.
38.
37.
36.
35.
34.
33. 32.
31.
30. 29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
21.
20.
19.
18.
17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9. 8.
7. 6. 5.
4.
3.5.
3.
2.
1.
Hey, Rocky, you want to see me pull a show out of my hat? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
Hi, and welcome to the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty, fresh take on politics. And yeah, I put a little extra in there. You noticed that was our seats at the race last Sunday, and it was really cool. The flyovers are always cool, but those extra helicopters were really cool. I feel like there's somebody's going to fall out on me or something. They're really close. But yeah, so I want to start out talking about that before we get our people on here. And this is like, I'm really excited because you know what? The old panel was on before 9 o'clock, barely. And then Ron is backstage, so everybody's here. I don't know how to act unless there's a little chaos before the show. But hey, it's good that it gives me time to rant and rave about stuff. First of all, I want to say, hey, how cool it was the race weekend. I mean, month of May is like something here in town, and it's in our backyard, and I don't know what keeps happening, but I've lost my camera again. I don't understand what keeps happening, so it's probably going to happen more than once. I don't know why it hates me, but it does. But anyway, so the race weekend's great. I mean, Thursday I went out to the track and watched some practice, and then went over to the Dawsons afterwards. And Marcus Ericsson was there with his Swedish people, the friends and everything. They had rented out a room back there, and all the Swedish guys that come over from Sweden, and Marcus Ericsson was coming over. And, on my jacket, I got the Swedish flag and everything. So I went back, and they were in there talking. He's a talking to him in the Swedish. I had for like 30 minutes, answered all these questions with these people. When he got done, I said, hey, can you sign my flag on my jacket? And he signed it, got my picture and everything. It was really cool. Then, the Friday was a carb day with a bunch of friends. It was like crazy. One thing I got to say about that concert, though, that concert was a ripoff. If you got a VIP thing and you paid for that, that was a ripoff because it was no bueno. But everything else was fun. Everything else was good. So then we have the race, the next day or on Sunday, and that was awesome. But I got a couple bones to pick with them. One about the people that they brought in here. So Pacers are playing the Knicks. So we don't want to be bringing any East Coasters in here. No Michael Strahans. No, people from the Yankees, Jeter and what's his face, or Rodriguez. Who wants to see those people? And they booed the quarterback from the New England Patriots guy, whatever his name is. They booed him. It's like, what are they thinking? This is bring in somebody from Indiana, or I guess we don't have any famous people or whatever. But I just thought that was odd that we have all these New York people. Then the Pacers end up losing to the New York people at the end. So probably because that's why they lost. But anyway, those are my complaints about it. But otherwise, it was pretty fun. A lot of people, always a lot of people there. So that was good. Now we got a good show for you tonight. We have Rhonda Miller coming on. She's with Purple for Parents. She started out here in Indiana. Now she's down in Texas, and she's been fighting the good fight. I think she really helped get the Kinsey Institute down to IU. Got some eyeballs put on that place, and some defunding taking place and other things. So we're going to talk to her about the education system tonight. So, it's like we don't need no education and all that good stuff. And so let's get to it. Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and bring on Rhonda. And Rhonda, how are you this evening?
I'm good, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now you've moved a whole time zone away from us. It's so you're down in Texas, hey?
Yes, we did. We moved down here last fall and bought a home down here.
Is that where the mothership for the Purple for Parents is, or is that just where the work needs to be done?
Well, there's a lot of work to be done in Texas, I'm finding out. But no, our headquarters is still back in Indiana. And our president is still there, John Schrock, and many of our team members. So
is it Texas worse than Indiana?
In some aspects, I would say yes. What I've seen happen at the Capitol has been quite interesting, to say the least. But in many aspects, it's the same thing as in Indiana. Every state is under attack right now. For
all that stuff. Wow, that's surprising. I thought the way everybody talks about that, I just saw the iStep or iLearn or whatever they're calling the testing came out, and we're 50% in both categories in proficiency. So wow, we're doing it halfway. I like to say we're doing it halfway. That's the best way I can say it. So it is interesting. We see a lot of people that coming out of the education system don't even know how many states there are in the country and different things. You see these videos on the TikTok and whatnot about asking people simple questions about history, and they don't even know what a lot of different things, but maybe they just pick out the dumb ones. That's it. And then they don't play the smart people. I don't know how that works. But anyway, it gives you the feeling that our kids aren't getting educated, and we don't need no stinking education, just like the Pink Floyd song says. So anything you want to say before I bring the panel on?
Nope. Let's have the conversation.
Oh, let's get it on. So let's go ahead and let's bring on our friendly Democrat, our Libertarian, and our Republican all here. Let's get us all in the right spots here. Let's see.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Got to get Brad over on the left, and there we go. Now everybody's happy. Look, Lucy's got another brick in the wall, just like Pink Floyd, right? We don't need no education, but yeah, I think we do need education. I think we need it. It's good. So, Brad, how are you doing? I saw you were in St. Louis. Is that correct?
No, that was a memory of from a year ago. That was when I lost my wallet.
Oh, that's not a good memory. I remember going when I was a kid. Let's say I went to my first race in 70, and then in 71, so I think we went to Six Flags, and I saw Bob Gibson pitch a one-hitter or a no-hitter. All I remember was I was a kid.
Yeah,
and it was cold. It was cold out there when we went, but that was pretty cool. So I got that going for me. So Lucy Breton, what's up with you? You planting seeds and all that stuff?
I'm planting seeds. I'm getting ready to sell some plants this weekend. And I hear that I have made the county so mad at me that the crazy, not very bright attorney has doxed me. So I can't wait to see what she comes up with.
Wait, what's that doxed mean? I mean, is that like swatted or something?
Doxing somebody is when you go out and you find out all kinds of information about them. And you use that as like to create a dossier, but doxed is short for documented. So it's an internet term where you go out and you find a whole bunch of information on somebody that you're
she's getting ready to come up with
your pronoun, like their address and stuff on social media.
Yeah.
I think the attorney's getting ready to find out what your pronouns are.
Yeah, I think she is. Yeah, I'm an open book. So I don't know what she thinks is going to find on me. I've never.
You're a novel. You're a novel. That's for sure. So Tiffany, I see you looks like you got a little sun from being out at Carb Day. That was fun running into you out there. Out of all the people I run into at the Carb Day, I run into Tiffany. It was.
Well, actually, it wasn't a Carb Day. It was a week before qualifications.
Are you sure? I wasn't out there then.
Because I was in Texas.
For the Carb Day? Oh yeah, it was. It was. Some other day.
It was exactly a week prior.
Yeah, what was that day? Oh, that was the day before the qualifications. Or Fast Friday. Fast Friday, that's it. Okay, There we got that straightened out. That's good. Yeah. Well, at least my camera.
You know me, I'm always at the racetrack, so of course.
Oh, really?
They call me racetrack.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of people out there at that racetrack. Now, Rhonda, have you been to the 500 before, Rhonda?
I have not.
What?
Oh, you're missing out. You got to come home so you can Brad, do that.
Who hadn't been to the race here besides Rhonda? You've never been to the race, Tiffany? To the actual race? You got a problem?
I've never been to the race. I've gone to Carb Day. I guess Fast Friday. I was out there Saturday before for qualifications. Yeah, I enjoy sampling the Indiana culture.
Yeah, well,
I went to Northwest High School, which is other than Speedway High School, it's the next closest high school. So we could all just leave. You just walk out the doors and
I think
walk
it's
over to the track.
Northwest closed down, isn't it?
I thought they turned it into a junior high, and then I thought it became an IB school, International Baccalaureate.
Oh,
I don't know.
It may be. I know
Once
exactly
I
what it is.
left, after I left, it was all downhill from
Indoctrination
there.
center, anyways. Let's not.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
it
That's
really
right.
is. And the craziest thing is, my husband and I were talking about this just yesterday. I did not get to graduate in May with my class because they had instituted my senior year this like 15 minutes in homeroom that you had to do like this career thing, and they took attendance on it. And they were mad at me because I wouldn't show up. I'm like, I already know what I want to do with my life. You know, I don't need your mimeograph sheets. And then, and if I was such a good little girl back then because I was a Mormon and I always just kind of did what I was told. You would not, I know you
Yeah.
cannot fathom that, but I was so brainwashed and controlled. It was very, very sad. But so I didn't stand up and fight for myself like I would have, or I would have realized it was a religious issue. I was president of the French club, and I was taking French 13 and 14. I did get my bachelor's in French, by the way, from IUPUI. But here I am taking French 13 and 14. They're making up numbers for me, you know, because there aren't those classes. So they just make up numbers. But it turns out the way they distribute the credits, it was going to count, that French 13 and 14 was going to count for a freshman English class. And by the way, Rhonda, you'll love the fact that in my freshman English class, we were doing some of that outcome-based education stuff. So we could talk about that. That was back in like 1984, 1985. So we got my parents and myself. We went into the principal. Dr. King was his name. Julian Coleman, who is an absolutely awesome guy. He was the vice principal. But they told me I did not get to graduate with my class in May because during my French 13 and 14 class, my older boyfriend who went to IUPUI would come pick me up, and I would go take a Mormon religious class at the college. So it took up.
That sounds like a cover for you running out with your boyfriend.
Most
no,
people
you know what? He was a good
the other way
Mormon guy.
around. They want to go necking, and they want to tell they're going. But
no, I was a Molly Mormon. I am telling you, on the scripture chases, I was a total Molly. In fact, that's why I'm not a Mormon anymore, because I asked so many good questions. And the better my questions, the more I was told to sit down, shut up, be a good girl, follow the brethren. They can't lead you astray. If the brethren tell you to kill somebody, it's okay, it's covered because God wanted them to tell you to do it. So literally in the Mormon church, I was taught that it was okay to commit murder as long as somebody in authority told you to, and it wouldn't be a sin. I mean, like literally. So yeah, so my French 13 and 14 that I left, you know, once a week for, kept me from graduating in May. So I had to go to summer school, and at the end of summer school, I was the one who gave the response of the class, the traditional valedictorian speech at summer school in August. And then I won Miss Indianapolis teen, and then I went on to college.
And you were getting doxxed even back then. You're just
yeah.
So I thought you were going to have a question in there somewhere.
Well, what was your speech?
Oh, it was very plain vanilla leftist. I mean,
vanilla
I was still
leftist.
more Republican because most Mormons are kind of right-leaning, conservative, Republican leading, but it was all kumbaya. I mean, that's just the sort of person I was. Now I'm a total shit stirrer. But back then it was total kumbaya. I remember talking about how we were going to bring, you know, the community. I started big, you know, we got to bring the nation together and the state together and our community together and meet with each other as individuals and love each other. And
what you meant to say is you could get them all in one group so you could burn them down all together.
What I did not say was, I did not say end the Fed. I did not say taxation is theft, and I did not say burn it all down. So I like
that's
myself.
What happens. You get old and cynical. I can't wait another 10 years on Lucy. It's going to be he's going to be like David Koresh or somebody. What's the guy that held up that was fighting, you know, holding them off? What's the guys out in Oregon? Wasn't there some guys out in Oregon that they
Ruby Ridge?
Yeah, Ruby Ridge. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be
actually Ruby Ridge would be a horror story for me, because Alon Horiuchi, who was the sniper for the FBI, actually murdered Vicki Weaver, Randy's wife. She was holding the screen door open, had her 8-month-old daughter in her hands, like, you know, screen door with one hand, daughter in the other, and the guy that had been trying to remember his name. He was in his 20s, that had been with a 14-year-old son a couple of days before when the FBI murdered her 14-year-old son. And so then Lon Horiuchi actually shot Vicky, killed her, and the bullet passed through her and went into the other guy. And he was holding the door open for.
That was a messed up.
So we should probably stop that tangent because I'm going to start.
I'm not going to do that. That was just sort of. I was just.
Don't take up Rhonda's time. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Rhonda.
I was going to say, really, it's really took a turn here for us here. Maybe my camera.
The initial question was, "How are you doing?"
Yeah.
I'm ready for bear. How are you, Rhonda?
So, okay, I'm going to ask the first question to Rhonda. So, Rhonda, you're down in Texas now with things. So, what's your biggest issue that you see right now with the education system, and what you're really fighting for?
Well, it's been interesting since I moved down here. I've been down to the Capitol several times testifying during session early on. But I tell you guys, the same battle that's taking place in Indiana over education is happening down here, because it's not isolated to any particular state. In fact, I will tell you, I've recently joined on an international group that is fighting the perversion globally. And so I'll be on a call with them tomorrow night talking about Kinsey and the perversion that has been spread from what happened out of Bloomington. But I have to tell you guys that the whole thing about education is we are where we are deliberately. Mm-hmm. And until we pull the tentacles out from the globalist agenda and these globalist foundations that are controlling education and have been for over a century, we're not going to fix anything. And it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. And so it's unfortunate, but parents down here, some of them get it, but many of them do not get it, just like they don't in Indiana.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say that my sister, she's starting her 40th year of teaching in Southern Indiana. And I asked her how long she was going to, we were having a conversation the other day, and I'm like, man, are we that old? Yeah, we're that old to be working somewhere for 40 years. So she said she's going to do 3 more years. She's going to follow the freshman class out that she has. And I think they start, and they have some of these rural, schools, they have pretty decent things. So we were joking around about, are you going to teach them? I said, are you going to teach them a bunch of letters today or whatever? She goes, yeah, and I'm going to teach them how to hate their parents and change their gender too. And that's not my sister's.
Well, and so but that's it. Like, where is the indoctrination happening? I guess.
Yeah, there's a good question.
I know, like, the teachers in my school, I have a 15-year-old, and he just finished his freshman year, and I have a second grader, he just finished his second grade class, and the entire school is transparent. You can look online at lesson plans. You can, review things. I talk to the teachers. You can message them every day. So I feel like transparency wise, everything is way more open. So I don't understand how a teacher can get away with trying to slip that past the parent.
Do you ever ask yourself why it's so open and transparent?
Because we asked for it. Like, it should be. I'm not saying that it shouldn't. Because people have asked for it, and we have the technology to do it. Like, everything.
So I would ask Rhonda, is this a teacher thing, or is it more of an administration curriculum thing?
Well, let's just put it this way. So I have a video in my global agenda presentation that I do of Bill Gates in 2009 saying that they will know they're successful when the curriculum and the standards align to the tests. And these globalists are the ones writing the tests. They are also the ones writing the curriculum. They have control of all the publishing companies. And so they are writing the curriculum, and they are therefore writing the standards. So some of the things that we are seeing that I've received even recently is we have classrooms in Indiana that are in English, teaching the kids how to research the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and then write on them. My question is, why are they not reading classical literature? I guess at this point we should be thankful they're not reading pornography, but that assignment, assignment included the Sustainable Development Goals. And that's my point. They are dissecting those instead of reading classical literature. Then a few weeks ago, we received a math assignment for 5th grade that was about 15-minute cities and how it's you shouldn't be driving cars. They use too much fossil fuel and they create pollution. So you shouldn't be driving cars. That is the nonsense. Just a couple of examples that we are seeing that are being played out in the classrooms.
And when I was substitute teaching at one of the places, I was teaching math, which is scary because I'm a creative person, not much of a math person, but I can read the equations and make it work. And the social studies thing, I was watching the kids, and they were basically telling them that America was bad and that we're bad people. I mean, I paraphrase that, but that's the vibe I got from it.
When did that happen though? Like we all went to high school, like
this was 2 years ago, Brad. I was substitute teaching 2 years ago.
We still had U.S. history class. So I wasn't indoctrinated into thinking that there was anything wrong.
Okay, let me ask you.
We were told things,
I have the litmus test. Let me ask the litmus test question to Brad. Gulf of Tonkin, what was it?
Oh, the beginning of Vietnam?
Yeah, how did it happen?
Or did it happen, I guess.
How were you taught in high school that Gulf of Tonkin?
I think it's funny that you bring that up. I really think a lot of it kind of ended around World War II / a little bit after that. That to me is actually like one of the critiques that I have about certain history curriculums is that it doesn't come up until now. And so we just study this ancient kind of stuff that we bank on. Trump still touts World War II as a victory, and it's like 80 years ago, and that everybody should, just kiss our behinds all the time. And I'm like, yeah, we did help, but what have we been doing now?
What have you done for me lately?
So I know Tiff was in the military, so she may have a different perspective on this. I was taught in high school, and I went from 84 to 89, so I graduated in 89. Lots of uncles, many died, from Agent Orange, but I had lots and lots of family members that were in during Vietnam. And my dad's 8 years in the military. The last year he was in was the first year of Vietnam, so my mom didn't let him re-enlist. Which of course, I'm thankful for. So I was taught that Gulf of Tonkin was when some of our soldiers were in Vietnam, and Gulf of Tonkin being a body of water, and that they were shot at and engaged with by the Vietnamese, and that we engaged back, and that's what started the Vietnam War. Now, my son, who's 25, he graduated, I think it was 2018. From Fishers High School. He was taught as a senior in government class that the Gulf of Tonkin, and this is the accurate version, was a false flag event, that it didn't actually happen, but that we needed an excuse to go into a war with Vietnam. And therefore, they made up the engagement, and it was a purely fabricated story. So there was no Gulf of Tonkin event. So just in the space of one generation, from myself to my children, the truth had come out. And what's interesting to note here is a lot of people are unaware that John F. Kennedy Jr., shortly before he was murdered, had announced his intention to pull, I think we had like 1,200 troops in Vietnam, but Johnson, who was his vice president and then became president after he died. Well, he was a warmonger because his financial interests were in the manufacture of armaments. And so what's crazy about that is that you think about like what Biden did with Afghanistan and how he left all of the hardware there. When the Vietnam War was over, it was tossed into the ocean, and it was deep sixed in order to force the American people or the taxpayers to buy that stuff all over again. And so, when you think about that, you really start to think about how does that relate to our current life? And for all those people that are fans of Elon, I got 2 words for you: defense contractor.
Oh, you think that he's going the wrong way, though, with his
my Republican friends are like, oh, but Elon's working for free. He's such a good guy. I'm like, he's a contractor. He's a government contractor. He's a defense contractor. He's making sure that his bread's getting buttered. But if you look at from the education system, I'm sure Rhonda will probably agree with me on this, and please tell me if you don't. It was the late 70s when I was 6 or 7 years old that the Department of Education started on a federal level. And then shortly after that, we started to have children that could no longer read or write My mother was a victim. Now she was, in the 50s, but she was a victim of whole language. So she made sure that I learned phonics. I'm making sure that my kids know about cursive. And if you guys don't know about cursive and the brain writing, go to myhandwriting.com. Get yourself educated, myhandwriting.com. But by the time I was in high school, they started outcome-based education. Rhonda, would you like to tell them what outcome-based education is, or would you like me to?
Yeah,
let's let Rhonda say it. Let's let Rhonda.
There's a lot there to unpack, Lucy. Teach to the test. And I was in a school board meeting years ago at our local school, and the teacher said, I quit teaching subjects so that I could teach to the test. And that's essentially outcome-based education, because everything's based on the outcome of what the kids do, how they do on those tests. And the teacher's pay is tied to it. And you have some kids who really struggle with test taking. I was one of them. And so unfortunately, they've tied that to the teacher's pay, or they did. So that's outcome-based education. But we can take all of this back even to prior to 1900. If you read Charlotte Iserbyt's The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, we are where we are on purpose. That book lays out all of the entities and the people involved in the destruction of America. And then you can, if you grab a copy of Pedophilia, Empire, Satan, Sodomy, and the Deep State, and I take that book with me every time I go to the Capitol down in Austin. I take it with me and I tell them, if you pervert your children and you don't stop grooming them, this is what you're feeding into. And that book talks about high levels of our government, how they were using our defense contractors, and they were destroying other nations, removing their leadership, installing communists, and then they would go in and they would put in orphanages and they would traffic those children. So our nation has been at the forefront of a lot of horrible things in our nation, and behind the scenes, they have been dumbing down our children to the point where we are now living out what they planned prior to 1900.
Rhonda, what are the parents' roles in this? I mean, shouldn't the parents be the ones setting the tone for their child to go to public school? Shouldn't they be able to read before they go? I mean, like, parents do have the time. Well, I just mean, like, they can, but because you can teach your kid whatever you want. Like,
you can you can absolutely.
So kindergartners do not show up able to read.
No, but I just mean, like, why couldn't you prepare them for?
Because the American lifestyle is so inflated that everybody has to have 2 SUVs, a great big house, and both parents have to work 50 hours.
It's not even just that.
Then, like, I would people grooming. That's everybody trying to live their own lives.
Parents are out there working. They don't have time. That's why kids are getting groomed. That's why kids are so easily manipulated, because the parents are outside the house working so hard.
Is education become more of a daycare center than it has been an education center? Because, here in Wayne Township, we have 100% free lunch. I mean, 100%. That's not 95. That's 100% free lunch. And, I bring that up because, you know what? It's, back in my day, I used to have to buy 2 lunches because I was a hungry kid. And, and we had to pay for them. We had to pay for the lunches. And, we were not what you'd call rich people. Me and my sisters were, we were driving our parents into the poorhouse.
Dude, lunch was a quarter, John.
It was $1.10. It was 55 cents. And then I would get 2 for $1.10.
Hey, John, you're so old that when you were in elementary school, it was before Bretton Woods, and that meant that gold was tagged to $35 an ounce. And
bring it
to $3,200 an ounce.
There we go. And then that taxation theft came in. See, I remember watching the lunar landing in the 2nd grade in '69, and that was because I had to take it twice because I couldn't cursive write. I was just born.
Was it real, or were you just watching a movie that they were pumping out?
It was black and white.
God, Tiffany.
It was a movie.
I love. Did you guys see Brad's face when Rhonda said the title of the book, "The Dumbing Down of America"? Brad's face was like, "Where would that be in my library? Do we have that in my library? I don't think that.
I don't do that.
I mean, it's in Evergreen. Clock. We could probably get it.
I love your face. You're just like.
No, I was thinking a lot of thoughts then.
Yeah, but that brings up a good point about what in our education system and the curriculum, it obviously has changed. And, we have different ways to figure out stuff. I mean, you can pretty much Google anything or or what's the new thing? Grok or
AI.
whatever.
Yeah.
AI. I think really one of the most interesting schools was the Purdue Polytechnic that I saw, and it was a project-based education. And so how we ran into that group is they wanted to come in, they had a project, they had to go out in the community and see what somebody was doing good in the community. So we had two of the groups come study the Mars Hill Art Center, what we were doing here in Mars Hill and our community outreach and all that. And these were freshmen. And I'm telling you what, these kids worked their tail off, and they put a lot of work into it, a lot of pride into it. And they had a presentation, and they had a big contest. It was, what I was impressed with was the competition part of it. And it was a project that they could really get behind. And these kids, you didn't have to tell them to go. They wanted to go. So where did we go wrong? What's the deal with the curriculum? How do we get kids interested?
Well, kids learn different ways, John. Like, I mean,
yeah, I know.
That's an episode of The Office.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was not a scholar early on. That if you probably could figure that out. My ADHD was very.
When did you become a scholar?
I'm still working on it. I do have a master's degree in psychology, so calm down.
Well, but that's okay. So can we please answer how the teachers are grooming and how librarians are groomers or, deviants and things like that? Because I feel like we've been targeted a lot, and I know a lot of people in the industries, and if we could indoctrinate them to read more, like, yeah, that'd be great. But like, that's why I don't know that teachers are as powerful as you guys
think they are
sometimes.
It's simply a matter of time, Brad. I mean, I'm getting my kids up at 6:00 in the morning to be on the bus by 7:15. They're not getting enough sleep at night. So they're literally going in like a concentration camp, or prisoner into a situation where, they don't have freedom of movement. They don't have freedom of thought. Those kids, they're there from 8 to 3. And then by the time they get home, I probably get 15 minutes with them. Especially since they're teenagers, they want to ignore me anyway. They come and eat whatever I prepared, and then they go hide in their room and play games. So I'm admitting to being, a bad parent because my kids are doing this. It was much easier to have more of an influence in their life when they were younger. But I will tell you, even with the taxation and theft and all that kind of a parent I am, I've got a couple of kids that are borderline Marxist because I let them go to public school. It's the biggest regret I have.
But do you think there's honestly a teacher there that is like filling their head with things?
Or absolutely. Absolutely. In fact,
experienced like their own view of society, their own view
go to Ball State?
The media.
How many teachers do you know?
Yeah, have you not been down to the State House when the Red for Ed people have been down there? I mean,
I know a lot of. I mean, I work with a lot of people in education,
But from some of the things that I've seen is that like teachers they're no longer the people who we thought lived at school. Do you remember like the first time you saw like a teacher out in public when you were like in elementary school? You're like, oh my God, I thought you lived at school. You don't just sleep there. But from what I've seen is that like, in addition to teaching subjects, some of your teachers, they put their spin on it, or they display items in classrooms that give insight into their political leanings, how they feel about law enforcement, how they feel about the environment. And so going back to Lucy's point, if you've got a child who's spending the bulk of their awake time in an institution-like environment, being exposed to teachers who are not just teaching science, but behind them, they have the brands of all of these other things in society, it does influence them. That's why our school boards have had to have rules like, no, you cannot just display any flags other than the American flags. Like, no, only approved books can be shared with kids. Yes, children can opt out of different events and different readings. I mean, this is why we've gotten where we are. And people believe that some of our institutions that are teaching teachers are not just teaching them how to teach, but they're teaching them what to teach and teaching them how to influence children. So if you were a conspiracy type theory person, you would say, wow, there are a lot of systems that are in place to indoctrinate and change the minds of children to think a particular way. When my daughter was at the Catholic high school, I was a Promise to Keep volunteer, and we talked about the high school kids working with the middle school kids to give a message of abstaining from sex, drugs, and alcohol. And, we did it there. And then people would say, oh, do they have the same program in the public schools? And I'm like, I don't think so. But because the message is just so counter to what the kids are hearing. And I believe that it's a message that kids deserve to hear. They deserve to hear both so that they can then make their choice. And unfortunately, a lot of kids in public schools, they're only hearing one thing. They're not even getting balanced messages. So they are being influenced in ways that are beyond the parents' control.
Yeah, I think it comes down to critical thought. We just need to teach kids how to think. And I think right now there's a lot of indoctrination. I think it's just, it's like this. So Yvonne wants to know, Rhonda, how do we fight this crap?
Yeah,
She
so
didn't say crap.
it's a monster to take on.
It's a
And because
monster.
we have to pull out the tentacles. We are never going to fix this as long as we let globalists control everything regarding education. And we have to understand many of the legislators, the state house and the capitals are bought off by these globalist entities. And many of them go back to Arabella, the Arabella advisors. If you haven't read Scott Walter's book, Arabella, you need to, because you need to understand the Rockefellers and the Carnegies had an agreement. Carnegies were to take over international education. Rockefellers were to do it nationally. If you read Charlotte's book, you will find that out. And I've come to realize Rockefellers have embedded so many of their tentacles in our educational system on purpose. The whole language came from there, and the literacy. And so we need to, first of all, understand and acknowledge that is what was behind this. And then you also have to understand those tentacles play right into your school boards and your library boards. Because if parents go to the school board and they have questions about what's happening in their classroom, they get pushed back on, and they're getting so frustrated. And I tell them, you have to understand, when you get somebody elected on the school board, chances are they're going to be, first of all, isolated, unless you've got 2 or 3 strong conservatives elected at the same time. They're going to be isolated. They're going to be bullied. They're going to be left out of meetings. We're seeing it across the board. And you need to understand that they are then sent off, once they're elected, to their own indoctrination themselves through the school board association. Same thing with the library boards. They get their indoctrination from the American Library Association. So you have to understand that first before you can really start fighting. And then I'm telling you, you've got to draw it out, and you've got to expose those that are involved. And I will tell you, the biggest culprit of what's happening in Indiana education, in my opinion, is Robert Baining.
Ooh,
Robert Baining has got his tentacles into everything that happens in education. He's behind a lot of the social emotional learning because he gets paid to set the policy at the State House. He then gets paid on Marian University through City Connects, Community Connects, to push those social emotional learning programs out into the schools. And that is where a lot of the indoctrination comes from. It's through social emotional learning. And it is not about teaching your children to be kind and to be empathetic. It comes right down from UNESCO and the World Economic Forum.
Yes, and it gets into our school via some of these grants that people take.
Yes.
They take the grants are tied to you. Go ahead, Rhonda, take it.
The Lilly Counseling Initiative grant transformed education through social emotional learning. I have all of the documents that prove that, the reports, the charts, the graphs, all of it.
Now, and when I was teaching the 4th graders, we had a little thing where we sat around, did the social emotional learning, and had a little squishy thing, and you hand it around, and I'm like going, let's go out and play some dodgeball and hit some kids in the face. I mean, come on. That's life is like dodgeball. You get hit in the face sometimes, not sit around and, but anyway, one of the things I want to bring up is curriculum. I remember Pearson Publishing used to be a big one. Now, I know they're bought by somebody else, but they control all of these educational books. And this is how it works. Say I'm a writer. I write a book on psychology, and I spent all this time and everything, and then I get it done, and it's for educational purposes. Well, Pearson would come and offer me more than it's worth, but then they would come out and they would sell that same textbook, mostly colleges, for, say they bought my book for $35. Well, they'll come back out and they'll say, hey, this is the curriculum in this class. This book costs $150. So you college student have to buy this book for $150. And I'm sure that goes right on down through the educational system of they own all of the property. So they can, push this and that and the other thing. So how much does the curriculum that we have to choose from, is that really more manipulated, or is that something that, oh, John, you're just crazy. It's not even the tinfoil hat time yet. It's not time for the conspiracy.
Well, I would just say this. In 2023, the third year of trying to repeal Indiana's loophole to allow pornography to be distributed in the classrooms, I had a team member of ours. I said, go get me the connections, because I knew they had to be there. They've been using propaganda on us for decades. I said, go get me the connections for these publishing companies to the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. And Pearson, McGraw-Hill, many of them, Penguin House, are all connected to those entities. So the globalists control the publishing companies. They are controlling the propaganda that goes out, not only to the universities, but down to the elementary schools. And I might add, UNESCO even says they're going after early education, which means your preschoolers, which is why we now have government funded daycare.
Yeah. So Brad, you're a librarian. I want to hear from you, Brad. What do you buy books for your library? What, am I crazy?
I do. I mean, I don't think
I am crazy, but
no. And I don't think they're pornographic. And
I think they're manipulated.
I mean, and I know that there's a difference between school libraries and public libraries. And I work at a public library, so there's adults that do frequent, the building as well. So there has to be something for everybody, and everything's, set in their right sections so that there's no tomfoolery, hopefully.
Well, we'll send Micah right over to fix it for you.
I'm sure.
Okay,
yes.
so can I bring this textbook thing all the way back to Ghislaine Maxwell? So Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell.
I want to hear this.
Yeah, Rhonda probably already knows this. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell, started the Pergamum Press. And the idea was that he would publish, and he did, textbooks of all kinds. And you might say, well, what is Pergamum? Well, in the book of Revelation, in the Bible, the city of Pergamum is referred to as where Satan has his throne. This description, found in Revelations 2:13, is thought to highlight the city's prominent role in pagan worship and persecution of Christians. So please explain to me why one of the publishers of many, countless textbooks were the altar of Satan. I mean, the company is literally named after the city of Satan, the altar of Satan, and actually called out in the Bible thousands of years ago for the persecution of Christians.
So Alyssa Graves talks about there are books in Texas elementary schools that explain to how use your imagination. That sounds like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah,
I mean, how terrible of a book. That's,
yeah.
Imagine.
I think he was saying use your imagination about
not like Willy Wonka, not like Willy Wonka, the chocolate factory. We're talking about some other kind of factory, I guess. Okay, and Rhonda, have you uncovered any kind of, up here in Indiana where, Brad is the leader of the porn in the library stuff, but do you have that problem down in Texas with the same sort of loose standards for our books where they're, placed in the libraries and all that? Oh, same thing, really?
Oh yeah. Well, it's been, Texas has been behind on getting their, they call it affirmative defense down here to prosecution. So they just now repealed theirs. They're behind Indiana, believe it or not. And so they just repealed theirs. The governor, I don't know that he signed it yet. But in any event, there is still a massive problem down here in Texas with pornography in schools. And I will just tell you, so now that I'm on this international team to tackle this issue, the book, Let's Talk About It, that is even being used in other countries. And
What,
that is
tell us
the
what-
worst
let's
book
talk
I have
about-
seen
give
yet.
us the cliff notes on Let's Talk About It. And I don't know what that one is. Tiffany. you
Let's
nod her
Talk
head.
About It is extremely pornographic. That is the one that we left at the State House in 2023 for 2 weeks to circulate. And I think that is the book, in my opinion, that helped flip the lawmakers and help them understand this is the content we are dealing with. That book is extremely pornographic. Every act of sex you can think of, even pedophilia.
So that's the one that Micah would often quote, and we had blow-ups of it at the library meeting, and the newspaper fuzzed it out. And so, wait, this genre of books, they're what do you call it?
Nonfiction graphic novels.
Yes, they're graphic novels. So the genre of books, graphic novels, has been completely hijacked. So you think that your kid is reading a comic book, but it's porn. And so they have their kids, they call reluctant readers. And so the idea of a comic book, okay, I can do that. It's not a lot of words, but then they slip in this content that keeps them turning the pages because you're stimulating their brains. Fuzzy things are going on in their tummy and their little places are tingling. And these books, that's what they do. And so that was our big thing. I remember on the library board, it's that, you've got all the books with all the words that none of the kids are going to read. But you get those graphic novels out there where you can go through 2 or 3 of them, and the content is very, very adult and mature.
You guys moved The Fault in Our Stars. Let's not make it sound like it was actually.
But you know what? You know what, Brad?
Who was that? Was
So
that the
very
John Green
sorry
one?
that we had to take a chainsaw when we should have been using toothpicks. But you know what? When you think about like your particular kids or somebody's grandkids being exposed to something just because somebody ordered a book and just threw it on a shelf and didn't do any other due diligence. I mean, there's more care at Macy's putting shoes away.
No,
in the shoe
there
department.
is care taken with
Some people care more in a shoe department than some librarians care.
And that's been my whole point is why are we not interested in protecting the innocence of children? That's been my point all along. Because when kids see those pictures, you cannot erase that from their memory. That is going to be implanted permanently. So why do we not care about protecting children? That's what it comes down to.
Well,
I think that's why we have things in the right sections. It's not.
I just read the best thing on this, and this is because parents that are my age, I'm 53, and I've got kids all the way, that have been 34 on down. My 34-year-old is telling me things that are horrifying for me to hear because I didn't understand that the internet is a place. Your kids are sitting there in their bedrooms or in their living rooms, so they're physically present with you, but spiritually, emotionally, and all the other, their attention, everything that counts, you don't know who they're with. It's the equivalent of them going down a deep, dark alley and popping into a back room, and you have no idea. And until my 34-year-old started educating me about this, I had no idea. I was not a vigilant parent the way that I thought I was. I thought because I kept not the TVs, I kept the monitors and the computers in the family room, I thought I was somehow protecting my kids. No,
Just
that
because
is
you
not
didn't
enough.
have Cinemax. We don't have Cinemax. We don't watch.
Libraries are so
it.
much scarier than the internet, though, Lucy. Don't.
Yeah.
Well, I would, Lucy, I would.
There's an
Lucy,
article
watch out that Dewey Decimal guy.
There's an article in Apple News, and it talks about the difference in kids, and it was like, are your kids bedroom kids or living room kids? Are the dynamics in your home safe enough where your children spend the bulk of their time in the same room with you, or do they just spend time in their bedroom doing whatever?
That's a good point.
Hey, Rhonda, you just have to talk louder than all of us. So you go.
So my voice does not carry real well. So Lucy, I would say that Texas 2 years ago, because they have a by-year legislator. So 2 years ago, they passed the statute that would require online porn sites to have age verification. The porn industry immediately sued Ken Paxton and the state of Texas. So my friend Audrey Warner from Matthew 18 Group wrote the amicus brief. That case was heard at the Supreme Court January 15th of this year. And that decision should come out anytime. But my friend, you'll love this. My friend wrote the amicus brief that brought out all of the crimes of Kinsey for the first time ever in front of the Supreme Court. And that is one thing that Dr. Judith Reisman had said we needed to do that. We had to get to the Supreme Court with all of his crimes. So for the first time, that was done on January 15th this year. We're just waiting on the decision because then that will require online porn sites to have age verification.
So did we get
was there evidence of his crimes or just hearsay?
Kinsey wrote it himself. They were masturbating infant boys. And counting the number of times infant boys ejaculated. They were ejaculated because they were manually stimulated by the researchers.
So if you watch Kinsey's Pedophiles, which we took the clips out of that film. It was a British film. It was never released here in America because otherwise that would all come out in America and Americans would have had a fit. Kinsey's own people, Brad. Kinsey's own people said they knew it was illegal and they didn't care. They knew what they were doing.
It was in the name of science. It was in the name of science.
Parents were there too. Like it wasn't.
No, they weren't. No, they weren't. He knew it was illegal when Rex King raped a young girl and she ripped. He was too big for her and he ripped her.
And
she screamed in pain and he knew it was illegal.
Kinsey Institute.
He knew it was illegal. You can't get any more specific than that, Brad.
No, and I'm not trying to argue. Like, I feel right now with the Kinsey Institute, I think Dr. Reisman had a personal issue with Dr. Kinsey. Like, so
in what universe is it okay to masturbate infant boys? And by the way, I'm going to put my intactivist thing in here right now. Before they circumcise a young infant boy who is literally 48 to 72 hours old, they stimulate them to erection so that they can get the Gomco clamp to stay on.
I'm glad I don't remember
and that is before. And this is exactly what Kellogg, the same guy that made the cornflakes, this is exactly what Kellogg intended because he wanted to associate pain with the genitals. They were burning out the clitorises of baby infant girls with carbolic acid. I'm so thankful as a female that didn't take hold, but that's what Kellogg was doing. You see, when you're evil and satanic and you get worse and worse, and I mean, even demon possession, it just gets worse and worse. I mean, and they were offering up their babies to Moloch for financial security for their family. And if you don't know, Moloch was like this big, bull, and he had hands and they had fires under the hands. People took their firstborns and gave them to the priests and they hooked them on these hands. So when the Bible says they were passing their children through the fire, that's what they were talking about. This evil is pervasive and persistent because this is a spiritual battle. And unless we help people get their spirituality back on track and honor God, none of this is going to change.
So do you think that this, this is one thing I've thought since, in Rhonda, we met with Jacob Boyens and different people, and I never, all this stuff has always been shadows. I don't know if I believe it. It's very uncomfortable to talk about. Do you think that's the reason why it's been such a hard thing to get going? Because when you see it, it's cringy. What Lucy just explained it makes me sick. And so I think that some people, maybe me included, I'd rather just look away than have to deal with this. Do you think that's part of the issue why we can't? It just seems like this should be an open and shut case. This should be, we'd stop it now, but it doesn't seem like it's going away. It's
not gonna go away until we see some mass arrests of these satanic pedophiles. It's not gonna go away. It's only gonna get worse, and it is an evil that most of us cannot even comprehend. That's why you cannot wrap your head around it. It is so demonic and so satanic what they have done to children. And Alfred Kinsey was part of it. He was funded by the Rockefellers. He was protected by the CIA, and the CIA is deeply involved in this.
Yeah, but his thoughts and everything we're still talking about. He still lives on. So do you think
can't we change the name?
Change the names, and I'm still coming after it.
If it's just an institute for sexuality right now,
it's not. It's a perversion institute that is carried out through entire campus and an entire globe. Kinsey's ideology and Kinsey's crimes went global.
Like, I don't think that what they are doing now is the same as whatever they were being accused of.
You're totally missing the point, Brad.
Let me take this one.
I think there should be an institute for sexuality because I don't think humans understand it whatsoever.
And that was Kinsey's ideology. So congratulations.
Yeah, that, I mean,
Thank you. Yeah.
having defense of this is very tough, but I mean, this is more symbolic of stopping it, pretty much cutting the head off the beast by letting it continue in any form. In any form is saying, "Oh well, boys will be boys. Let's go on."
But no studying sexuality anymore ever.
Well, I mean, hey,
No,
I'm
Brad,
proponent in
you're
keeping
doing-
a kid as innocent as long as we can keep them innocent. You know, it's like
you're doing the leftist thing, Brad. You're trying
But
to make
Lucy,
this
the internet exists. Like you brought it up earlier. Like there is this whole place where they can get work.
There is. And you know what? That is terrible. And as adults who have the best interests of children in mind, we should all be working together to stop children from seeing this evil. And we should all be working to root it out. One of the ways that you can make a definitive statement that you are interested in protecting children from pedophilia is you can shut down the very organization that studied it. And then you can make a really big statement by saying, this is the line in the sand. This thing did evil in the past, so it's got to be wiped away. And we're not going to build on the ashes of evil. We're going to start something that's separate and moral.
But Lucy, even over that, there's the ethics behind it. It's just like if Mengele came up with any type of information that was worth any damn, nobody's going to use it because it came from like his experiments on twins. Like it's not, the juice is not worth the squeeze. You know,
well, that's why we have Lyme disease, because of Operation Paperclip. We divided up the Nazi scientists. Russia got some, we got some. They stuck them right out at the veterinary research facility, Plum Island, right at the tip of Long Island, which is 7 miles across the water from Lyme, Connecticut. So between the 40s, after the Nuremberg trials, those guys got new names and new funding. And that's why you have Lyme disease, because they figured out that, first of all, they modified syphilis. For those of you who don't understand, syphilis is a spirochete, and the I can't even pronounce the name for the Lyme disease bacteria, but they figured out that ticks were a great vector, and ticks rode right on those little birdies, and they flapped their way over to Lyme, Connecticut. And that's why so many people are suffering today, because back then the US government was more interested in letting somebody else commit the evil acts and then profiting off of them. Every single one of those scientists should have been hanged publicly.
I get,
but instead, they used their mind to create more evil, and our tax dollars funded it.
And so I get to this point. You know, we talked about the Carnegies and these maybe Bernie Sanders would call them the oligarchies. I don't know if that's the right word, but I just what's the motivation for these people? Are they just so rich they're bored, or they just want to drunk with power hungry? What I mean,
well, John, why did slavery exist?
Why did slavery? Yeah, I mean,
we're all slaves right now. We are all slaves right now. Our assets, both our labor and everything that we buy and our homes that we live in, have all been the full faith and credit of the United States government. We've been bankrupt since 1917. And if you go back and read the War Powers Act, you'll see that the U.S. citizen is the enemy. We, the people, are the enemy. So in 1913, the Federal Reserve took over. Within 4 or 5 years, we had World War I. We had the War Powers Act. How do you recover financially from a war?
Inflation.
You have well, and think about that. After 1917 and the start of World War I, what did we have then? Then we had the Great Depression. So between 1913 and 1929, a short 16 years, they took over the money supply. They pledged all of us and all of our collective assets and asses as tribute, as they mortgaged us literally. And I'm not even going to get into the straw man and the sovereign citizen thing, because most people are going to think I'm crazy. Maybe we should save that for the conspiracy. But all of that is legally, it is all legally true. It is all legally true. And the only thing that's missing is the individual will of each of us to confess our sins, to repent before Almighty God. And I'm not trying to turn this into a sermon, and to choose a side, good or evil. Brad, you asked why people do this. I'll tell you exactly why they do that. Because I remember when I was 19 years old and I was managing a fitness facility, the gal that was my coworker, her husband was a satanic high priest. I was very surprised to find out this later. I knew immediately when I met him that something was off, and then she told me later. And they had just had a child together. She was really freaked out about the things that he was doing. So she told me, she said, I can't even tell my husband if we're, going through the mall that I like something, because when I walk through the door, it'll be on my pillow. He would have the power, having demons work for him, to transliterate things, to literally take things from one place to another. So, in return for him committing evil acts, these demons would do things for him. Now, you take that, that little thing of having a plushie show up on your pillow versus having control over the world. I mean, the people that we're talking about aren't even the actors. They're not even the people doing these things. The cabal, you don't even know their names. I don't know their names.
Yeah,
But I know that these are
That's what
very
we
evil
call.
families.
That's who we call they. We're looking for. I want to figure out who they are because they
That's
control the
why I call
stock
it the
market. They
cabal.
control the
you have
education. They control everything.
they
So
do.
one more question, and we're getting long. This discussion's gone quickly. AI, Rhonda, how's AI going to come into this? I mean, because now you could. I mean, you don't even have to have two people together. They can make a dirty thing, something or other, right? I mean, I've seen Hammer and Nigel put on their, Hammer kissing Hillary Clinton and stuff, and it looks real. I mean, so how does that going to come into play with this mess that we have now that we can't even hardly get straightened out?
Yeah, so there's already attempts at legislation to stop the AI perversion, if you will, AI created pornography, because that is a real thing, and so that is something that needs to be addressed. And Indiana isn't even on the radar for even taking on such legislation. There are attempts down here in Texas, from what I understand, to address that, but that is going to be a real problem. Very, very soon. And I tell you, so I know Yvonne's asking for help. So here's what I would say. We have got to start exposing these people and expose them publicly for the money they're taking, for who's being bought off, who's passing what legislation, and going after these people and doing it publicly. They don't like public humiliation, but I'm telling you, that's the only thing that's going to really help. And then you've got to really start going after them and get them out of office, get them removed. If you've got to go after school board, you've got to go after the people who are protecting teachers, protecting people that are grooming children in the schools and indoctrinating them. You've got to go after them and expose them, and that's where it starts. And unfortunately, you're gonna take some darts. I mean, my husband and I have taken darts for me speaking out, but it's not going to stop me. We have to have courage. We have to stand up, because if we don't stand up and fight back for America, we lose the nation and there's nowhere else to go. And that's what I tell them when I'm down here. I say, we have got to protect Texas. We have got to save Texas. And Texas is under siege right now. It's amazing what's going on down here. And I tell them, if we lose Texas, we lose the nation.
Well, and then you got people from California moving there. So
we do. They're moving in from everywhere. I mean, there's building going on all around us. It is insane. I've never seen anything like it. And I mean, we've been down here on vacation many times.
Are you close to Austin then? Austin's like booming.
No, we're north of Austin. We're outside of Fort Worth.
Okay. So, but yeah, it's still, I mean, it's just a lot of people going there, and it changes the dynamic. And we have people, not a lot of people moving to Indiana, but some people do. And a lot of people make fun of Indiana. I don't know why. We had a pretty good week last week, I think. In an update on the Pacers, end of the third, 91 for the Knicks, 101 for the Pacers. My dad had a saying that the first team to 100 usually won. So we'll hope that my dad's saying comes true tonight for them. Okay, this has been quite the interesting conversation tonight.
Rhonda, is there anything else you want to talk about? Because
in
the comments, somebody was like, "Hey, I really want to hear more Rhonda." So,
well, I would just say, guys, Indiana is at the root of a lot of what has happened in our nation, as is Texas. Indiana had Robert Owen come in and try to set up the first communist commune there in New Harmony. If you haven't been there, I'd encourage you to go and take some pictures. It's a pretty interesting place to be. And then you have the Kinsey Institute. And so there's a lot of things that have been deeply rooted in Indiana. And Indianapolis has been looked at by a former congresswoman and given a D rating because of all the interlocking interstates that run through there, along with all the sports teams, because it's heavy in trafficking. And Indiana is one of the first places. Jacob Boyan said when those children are trafficked across the southern border, Evansville is one of the top destinations that those children are sent to, and then they're dispersed throughout the Midwest from there. So Indiana is deeply involved in a lot of this stuff, and so exposing that has got to be at the forefront. And the Kinsey Institute is front and center on all of this, and we've got to go after that institute. And I will not quit.
Yeah,
have you ever visited it?
Yes, I have.
Like you taken the tour and stuff and seen the little.
You can only get so far, and then you can't get past the locking doors.
Oh yeah, I had to call them. They let me.
You know, Woody Burton was on tour in that, and so was Cindy Noe several years ago when they were legislators. They were 2 of 4 legislators given a tour, and Woody Burton used to bellow in the State House. That is nothing more than a porn factory. And Cindy Noe will talk about what she saw.
Yeah, Cindy's a big proponent of stopping that, and you can tell when you talk to Cindy that she saw some stuff that really disturbed her. This is definitely one of her things to get on. So, Tiffany, you're muted.
I'm sorry. To your point, Rhonda, like they do this research, and then how does it contribute to society?
Because it filters out all that ideology, filters out right into the schools. Because when Kinsey wrote his books, Hugh Hefner read them, and he decided he was going to become Kinsey's pamphleteer. That's when he started Playboy. So then he gave the seed money to a former medical director of Planned Parenthood called Mary Calderon. They started CECUS at the Kinsey Institute, out of the Kinsey Institute, to be the sex ed arm of the Kinsey Institute. So that's what's driving all the sexual perversion in the schools. And then you've got all the pornography industry bringing all this pornographic material into the schools. So the kids are getting it from every direction. And that's what's driving it. That's how it's infiltrated. It's infiltrated every department throughout the institute, or throughout the university, and across the nation and across the globe. That's how it's impacted. And it was intentional, because you had to destroy the family. You had to get the men hooked on pornography, because if you get them hooked on pornography, they don't defend the women and the children, and you destroy the family from within.
Yeah.
Why does pornography stop men
from anywhere? Why would I be devoted to my wife and my family if I can get the same level of excitement?
Because women are objectified, Brad. Because women are no longer human beings that are deserving of love and protection. They're just something to be used and discarded. And that pervasive attitude is something that spills over into relationships.
Don't women watch pornography too?
Women read it more than men.
Women do read it a lot.
Women tend to read it
50
more
Shades
than,
of Grey,
and men
right?
tend to watch it.
Yeah.
So
Either way,
is
it's
there
it's addictive. Either way, it's addictive, and the whole point was to destroy the family, Brad.
I think the problem is it's a $1 billion industry of all around the thing, and then when you get that money involved, trying to get rid of it, it's going to take a yeoman's effort. And I wonder about, you hear a lot of this OnlyFans and different things that are going on, and you just wonder if that's more of a product of this creeping in. Now it's to the point where it's just so prevalent. It's not even. It's
yeah, because like
in everything.
OnlyFans isn't like porno. Like I don't know how you. It's like an individual. It's not a studio.
Well, I know. I mean, I don't have OnlyFans. I don't watch OnlyFans. I just hear about the OnlyFans. I'm like, I hear these girls say, "Oh, I have an OnlyFans. I'm making $100K."
During COVID, so that sex workers could continue to make money. So instead of them going to clubs and having pimps as middlemen, they were able to market themselves directly to consumers. So it's only
capitalism.
Here's what I will say though, guys. That Supreme Court ruling, when it comes down, we're expecting it to come down in favor of Texas and require the online age verification. If that happens, we're also expecting that could set the course for all of these Kinsey-based laws to be repealed.
Oh.
Well, what are Kinsey-based laws? What do you mean?
So when Kinsey's books went out, the Rockefellers were behind us going from common law to the model penal code. And Texas, 3 years ago in 1952, in the old Supreme Court room, that is where the original case was heard. And Texas was the first one to go from common law to the model penal code, and the nation followed. So when that happened, there were I don't know, 50 some base laws that protected women and children. And those were all flipped thanks to Kinsey, Rockefellers, and the CIA. So when that decisions comes down, we're expecting at some point that will start unraveling all of those laws that were put into place by Kinsey and Rockefellers.
Can you give me a couple of examples?
I can't off the top of my head, Tiffany, but I will send them to John and he can get them to you. Audrey Warner has them all.
She has them all. Okay, so one last question before we go to conspiracy here. Do you think they're going to ever release the Epstein, that real Epstein stuff? I mean, you got to wonder who's all on the list and if that's going to matter. I mean, since we're talking about the craziness that's going on, because that seems to be I think that's part of the issue. People say, I want to see some perp walks. If these people get away with this stuff, well, they must not be doing anything because nobody's getting punished. There's all these different rules. I mean, Brad, I say, you're confused as could be. I don't know. You don't know. We don't know really what's going on. But if we see some people get arrested or if we see some people get publicly perp walked and all that stuff, that'd make a difference. So, Rhonda, do you think that they're going to start releasing some more stuff, or are they all just involved and they just can't release it because they'll self-incriminate?
Well, I think there's multiple things going on here. But first of all, I would always say, before we had Jeffrey Epstein, we had Alfred Kinsey. He was the prelude to Jeffrey Epstein. I do think if you're watching anything that coming out on X of P. Diddy's trial,
yeah, that's another one.
Those are names that are starting to come out. And I do think at some point we will see those people getting arrested. We will see those names come out. And I'm telling you, based on the book that I have, that I referenced earlier, Pedophilia, Empire, and Satan, Sodomy, the Deep State, it goes to the highest levels in our government. So when it goes down, it's going to go down in a big way. And I do think at some point that list will come out. That's my opinion.
And I do think that there's a lot of these people that are in power are compromised. They are caught up in this and they can't make a movement, because then guess what? You're going to be smeared and we're going to take care of you. So could you post that? Can you go back after the show and post that book somebody can post that in the comments so that we can, if somebody wants to read that, they can look at it, because I do think it comes down to education and awareness. I mean, like I said, it just, you have to turn your head away from this stuff because it just doesn't think that this could happen to our kids. But one of the bills that I testified against was the House Bill 480, was the gender affirming before you were 18. And I'm like, dudes, this is not cool. I know when I was 13, I was an idiot. I was probably an idiot until about maybe not even, I probably still am. So making a decision when you're that young, Tiffany, quit laughing. I see you laughing over there.
John, I will if I can just add though, when that Lilly counseling grant money was doled out in 2017 and 2018, it paid a radical named Trish Hatch to come back to Indiana. And she was traveling the country. I have proof of her being down here in Texas around the same time frame. But she was coming back to Indiana, paid through that grant money to train our schools on how to use the pronouns, how to gender confuse the kids, how to propagate with all of this nonsense with gender ideology, the transgender movement, how to change a child's name at school and not notify the parents. That all came down through that Lilly grant. And again, I have all the proof to back that up.
Man, I don't think that Eli Lilly he'd be rolling in his grave if he knew that stuff was going on. I didn't know him personally, but it just seems like he was a guy that wanted to do good for people with medicine and help cure them.
Well, the Lilly Foundation and the company are separate entities.
Right, they're separate.
But
that's
the
what
Lilly
I'm saying. But his name's on there.
Money from Lilly Pharmaceutical. The endowment wing gets its money from the company.
And his name's on there. So
correct. They are separate entities.
Yeah, well,
one funds the other.
For legal.
Yeah, they're
Lilly,
still, Lilly's got a name on there, and I don't think that Eli Lilly, the man that made that company, I don't think he would be real impressed with some of the stuff that's going on.
It's been reported that Lilly, the CIA tasked Lilly to come up with LSD for their MK Ultra experiments, which are those mind control experiments. So it's no wonder Lilly is now involved in social emotional learning because it drives up mental health.
Well, maybe I was wrong about the guy. Darn it. I was hoping that he wasn't bad.
But the thing is that if I am not a conspiracy theorist, but if you just look around the world that we live in, I mean, I just wonder, like, where are we going to be in 30 years? Like the kids now who are 30, who, you know, they're not making any money. They're not working those standard corporate jobs. People aren't going to the doctor. People aren't raising their kids. I mean, you have to believe that.
Kinsey. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's part of it. But I mean, like, they're just like, where
you're starting to sound like our parents when they heard about rock and roll. Hey, those kids we're going to hell because of rock and roll. But this is not
where are people going to be? Like where is, you know, challenging your gender going to help you, you know, earn a good living, you know, contribute to society? I mean, is that really something that we should be helping people do?
I think it should be treatment, and also they get hooked on the drugs for that. So it comes down to the money of, you know, somebody on that road.
And I'm not saying that gender issues don't exist, but why would we be gender confusing people?
Just by introducing a topic to them doesn't mean that you're trying to confuse them.
The gender confusion actually starts with the MMR and the Varivax vaccines, when DNA from infant girls and infant boys that were sacrificed via abortion, and their cell lines are directly injected into small children today. That's when
and I didn't even play the conspiracy theory thing there, because we know that was
that is, I can tell you where to find that CDC vaccine excipient ingredient list.
All right, put it in the comments, Lucy, or I'll put it for you, because we have to have receipts here.
Tiffany, I will say it is encouraging though, because we are seeing some young people that are starting to question the things that they've been taught, and they are reaching out and asking questions. And so that is encouraging, because when they realize that they are the generation that can fix this, they are the generation that can return us back to where we need to be, and they are the ones going to lead the way. I do think that's going to happen, and I do see that happening. I will tell you, a friend of mine, Audrey, I've talked to her about her on this show. She has been over to Uganda 3 times. She's going over again in September, and she's leading the way with their youth over there, and they are rising up. And it's the youth, and I do think that's what's going to happen in America. But it's going to be a monumental task for them. But once they realize that they have been the target of all this brainwashing and this gender nonsense, I think they're going to rise up and they're going to be angry about it.
I think there's some truth to that. I think a lot of millennials, I don't want to speak for all of them, Brad, I think you're sort of a millennial, you grew up in the everyone gets a trophy era. Now, when you're older and you have kids and you've realized that, hey, adulting's hard. I think that, you know, I see a big switch in that. So I agree with you,
Rhonda. Even my daughter's 23. And when she talks about having kids, like, she's been buying DVDs. She's like, I'm not going to have my kids on the internet. If they're going to watch a movie, they're going to watch one movie. We're going to watch it together. So they do understand, like, they are understanding, like, you can, when you have your own children, you can do things differently so that they're not exposed to the things that they were inadvertently exposed to. And I do think that we'll probably see an increase in homeschooling. You know, people will be like, you know what, this just isn't for us. And it is surprising. It used to just be that, like, homeschool kids were just a little bit, you know, they were just weird kids. I'm sorry. I graduated high school in 91.
You're so polite.
No, there were no homeschool kids back then, or if they were kind of really, really different. But now it's really a great parenting strategy, especially if you have minority children who you think are going to get treated differently by teachers in the system. If parents can teach them at home, or if you think that the curriculum's going to go too slow and you can teach your kids better, or if it doesn't work for whatever family dynamic, if needs aren't being met. And as you start to see more and more people being in charge of their children's mind, and then dropping them off at school to play sports and then taking them back home. I mean, I do see a path forward for people to be able to say, you know what, this just isn't for us, and people not think that they are the weird ones.
Yeah, I have an experiment going on in my own family here. So Lisa's got 3 grandkids from her daughter. I have 3 grandkids from my daughter. They're all about the same age, 12, 8, 7, and 6-ish. And one is homeschooled, and of course, Lisa's daughter was a teacher. Now she's pretty much a teacher at home. And then my daughter's a single mom, and I can tell the difference in the kids. I mean, it is totally a different dynamic. And I'm like, wow. So there is truth to that. So one last question. I know I keep trying to end this show, but it's just been so interesting. One last question. Rhonda, are you starting to see a trend towards more homeschooling, or is that flattening out, or we hear these charter schools, and are they any better? So homeschooling or charter schools, I guess options. What's our options here that people can do with if they have kids?
Yeah. So charter schools are essentially public schools. Private schools, parents are pulling their kids out and putting them in private schools. Many private schools are now taking the voucher money, and so they're taking the same programs. So what's going to happen is parents are not going to have a say when they object to something. The school board isn't responsible to them necessarily, so they're not elected. So I think homeschooling is going to continue to rise. Mm-hmm. However, the government is on the heels of the homeschoolers. So the homeschoolers are going to have to be very, very careful. They don't take government money if they truly want school education freedom. That's what it comes down to.
Yep.
Okay. Well I'll tell you, I feel like we've just scratched the surface here. I mean, I really feel like we've just got started. I mean, we're already an hour and a half into this deal. So we're going to go to and Rhonda, you usually stick around for conspiracy because you're not running for office or anything, are you?
Nope.
Okay. I see you want to stick around for it. So let me run the segue here so I can get my hat on and Bad can fight his mask, and you females don't want to cooperate. That's hard to believe that 2 men are the rule followers here and the females are not. That's just
we just like playing dress up, John. I think
that's what it is. Yeah.
Hey y'all, it's time for the conspiracy theory, so you better get your tinfoil hat out and let's see what's going on this week.
All right. I got a doozy for you. Lucy, you're going to be so impressed with mine. I've thought about it earlier this week, and then usually I forget by the time the show runs around, but I've remembered now. I've remembered it. So, but anyway, who wants to go first? Nobody? Lucy, come on.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go first. The problem is I've revealed so many of the conspiracy facts during this. Let me just go ahead and use one example. I may have said this before, and this is an example of the dark side of outcome-based education. So Rhonda talked about the forward-facing PR version, which is outcome-based, where we're basing everything towards the test, and the outcome is to get a good test. That's not actually what outcome-based education is, because they don't reveal to you this dark side of it. The outcome that they're looking for is a shift in the morality of the children. And I was a direct victim and participant of this in my freshman year of high school. And that is the year that they actually started this sort of outcome-based education. So what I was subjected to was called the boat. So they took my freshman class in English, and we divided into 2 groups. And I think we had 11 in one group and 12 in the other group. We were told that we were all on a boat. So we had these 2 groups, and each of us were given a profession. Somebody was, an artist, and somebody was a preacher, and somebody was a school teacher, and somebody was a cop and a firefighter. And whatever size your number of people had, the capacity for your boat was 1 less person. So you had a 10-person boat and 11 people, or a 12 people and an 11-person boat. The point is that we were supposed to each advocate for why we weren't supposed to be thrown over and die so that the rest may live. So there was no creative thought, because my thought was, well, if there's 12 of us and there's 24 hours in a day, then we could each, take, everybody gets 1 hour, like I'm noon and I'm midnight. So everybody gets an hour out of the boat, and then you hop back in and somebody else comes out. There was no creative thinking allowed. The only thing you were allowed to focus on is who were you going to murder based on the group dynamics and who was the least useful to your group. And that was the outcome-based education, not conspiracy fact. I lived it. And you can find other scenarios like that in the book, Educating for the New World Order by B.K. Eekman. And that's available on Amazon right now.
Is that like Lord of the Flies? I think I remember reading that book, Lord of the Flies. I don't know.
Well, the secret of the Lord of the Flies is they is that that whole scenario wouldn't have happened in real life. Like they've had groups of young men and other people, they always organized together for each other's benefit. Because when I was a prepper back in the 80s, I thought I was going to be lone gunman, right? I thought that the way that you were going to survive the zombie apocalypse was you're going to put on your go bag, your backpack, and you're going to walk into the woods and you're going to survive. Well, after I had children and became an adult and had more experience in life, I realized that people form tribal groups for mutual assistance. So the Lord of the Flies was actually a big fat, I'm going to call it a false flag. The whole premise of it was anti-reality.
It was a fiction though, right? I mean, it wasn't
Yes,
like
it was fiction.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
But I
fiction.
love what Lucy said in the beginning was like what outcomes-based learning is changing the morality, because that's huge. That changes everything when people no longer feel shame, or they feel like it's just okay. It's not a big deal. I mean, that makes everything so much more acceptable. I think about like when I was in high school, I was student body president, and they were putting people on homecoming court. And again, this was the early 90s, and my principal was like, this girl can't be in homecoming court. I was like, why? She's everybody's friend. They're like, she had a baby. It's like, and he was like, she has a baby. She can't be on homecoming court. And it was one of those things where like I couldn't see it. I couldn't understand it. But all the teachers were like, no. And it's like when things that should not be become okay, that's just the first step in the wrong direction.
It's
We've
social
been warned about
reengineering.
this. Exactly. We've been warned about the slippery slope. David Icke calls it, the totalitarian tiptoe. The fact of the matter is they tried too hard at COVID, and everything that happened with COVID, they tried to do too much too fast, and it woke people up. If you look at the
Yeah.
basic Yeah, if you look at the basic beliefs of an American in 1900 versus 2025, can you imagine any man or woman in 1900 coming into our society and doing anything but bitch slapping us and asking us why we ruined what they built?
Oh yeah.
That's one way to put it. so
Known for subtlety.
okay, let's see.
Yeah,
Brad, you
it
got
would be the same.
anything?
It would be the same as people being like, look, we didn't fight for freedom for this. Like
Oh, yeah.
you need to be contributing. Like, that's the whole thing. We want it to be able to do for ourselves. Do for yourself,
There were hobos back in history. It's not like everybody was this, salt of the earth, hard worker.
Yeah,
Like,
even
there
Andy
was a
Griffith
whole,
had a guy.
like tramps.
Otis.
Like there were
But-
lazy asses back in the day. We need to stop painting history like this, lush.
So I don't know if you
landscape
caught
of,
what
like,
I
workers
was
all the
saying.
time.
When I said we didn't fight for freedom for our people to be lazy, I was referring to my people because I'm an American descendant of slaves. I was not necessarily referring to hobos. I was referring to my direct lineage.
I thought you just meant like people of the past.
No, I am talking about when we think about what our ancestors went through, because I was vibing with Lucy about where they were and what they were hoping for and wanting to build and what we are choosing to tear down. It's like, what do you want? Why?
Yeah, but we have Lobster Fest. Like you don't
Well,
think
I
they
guess
like that?
you, Brad, probably wouldn't understand because you follow a band and you get lost and you just
I do.
tune out and you're in the wind. But the rest of us.
That's why he's got to wear his mask. He's in the wind.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. So do either one of you have a conspiracy? Or are you gonna?
Oh no, I
banter
have
back
one.
and forth.
I have.
You got
one.
one? Okay, Brad,
Yeah,
go ahead.
It's about AI. Because Rhonda actually brought it up earlier. Indiana being behind. I'm just gonna take this up. Indiana being behind on the
Whoever's that
AI issue and stuff like that. I think Todd Rokita would say otherwise, like because he's always patting himself on the back. So I think he would think he's doing a great job.
Todd Rokita is an American hero.
Either way,
you just trying to stir the pot.
in the new the big beautiful bill, did you guys see that there's a 10-year like states cannot set any AI regulations for 10 years. There's a ban on states setting any kind of AI regulations, and it actually takes away any current regulations the state has. So if this
Yeah, you
big
know what
beautiful
that's
bill
called?
passes,
That's like Starlink, right? I mean, did you watch the
Skynet,
Terminator movies?
Skynet,
Skynet. Well,
yeah.
So that
Skynet is
means that
Starlink.
any AI issues will be handled at a federal level, and it'll take forever to legislate.
They're going to
Yeah,
let
you guys
AI
all
handle
have
the
got to
AI.
be
but
seeing
we
Facebook has been,
we
everybody's been
can't as a
posting
state
about
do
AI.
anything, and Rhonda, Texas as a state, I don't think can do anything if that law
Texas is
passes.
a country.
Yeah, they think
I
they're
did.
a country.
I
Rhonda,
just
I
got back from
visited
San
Dallas,
Antonio. Yeah,
California.
Texas is a
it
country.
was
The
beautiful.
bigger
Yeah.
the state, the more they think they're a country. That's for sure. And they have a bigger GDP than than a bunch of countries. So they'll be messing with what they say. Rhonda, don't mess with Texas. Is that one of the sayings?
Oh,
down there?
they're messing with Texas. Let me tell you.
So do you guys think this is going to still pass then?
Well,
Like
you still
the
got to go
big
through the
beautiful
Senate.
bill.
They're going to doctor it up. It's the same thing with the property tax bill that we had here. It's going to go back and forth, and then pretty soon you're not going to recognize it. Who knows what we're going to end up with?
Yeah, but should the federal government be able to do that with AI?
No, I mean they should take the lead and manage this thing, not just sort of kick it down the road like they sound like they're doing. I agree. They should be.
You're never going to stop paying property taxes, because it's in the Vancouver Declaration. And as long as the UN has its tentacles in our country, you're never going to stop paying property taxes. Am I right, Lucy?
I'm just going to quit paying and let them take my house.
That's what they want.
I know they're evil, bad people.
They got to redistribute the wealth.
Since you're talking about that, I know this isn't conspiracy theory. So this is the latest on my property tax refund, because I did appeal them. I mean, Lisa did all the work. I had the idea, as that's how it usually works. So Brad's got to go to the bathroom, had too much Bud Light. This is his, and he honestly, in his defense, we weren't supposed to go for an hour and a half. So I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt there. So we get a letter back that apparently that we were supposed to get a refund, because when they reassessed my house in 21, they said it was totally completed to $300,000. Well, this thing wasn't completed. It was still under building permit for that entire year, because the city was screwing with me about my building permit, holding up my project. Lady, they ate the spider. So anyway, they come back and they said, "Oh, it's been so long, we have to issue you a check. You can't give you a credit." Well, the next letter was, "Well, oh, by the way, we lost your paperwork, so now you have to fill out these forms again." So then Lisa, smart ass as she is, she says, "Oh, will we get interest on our money?" So today my email was, "Yes, we're going to get interest on our money." So who knows? Just go. And I'm just one person that's trying to get property taxes straight out. Anyway, so Tiffany, do you have a conspiracy? That was fact, by the way. All my stuff I just said was fact.
I love it. Lucy said something else that I thought was interesting. But anyway, I think that just people should understand that in some way we're all in the matrix. And if you don't believe it, just think about the things that you do and why you do them and what would happen if you didn't do them.
So that, well, Keanu Reeves.
We are on this earth, and our time and our thoughts and our words should be our own. But we make choices.
There he's back. Brad, I covered for you.
We
I
just
told him
compromise ourselves to the point we give it all up, and then we're just living in the matrix, trying to get our needs met. We sacrifice our kids, we sacrifice our lives, our thighs, our good years, and then what we end up with is maybe
watch out for them thighs, those American thighs.
From 65 to whenever you happen to pass away. But I mean, you should be able to live.
That's only like a year for me, Tiffany. Going to be there.
But think about it. I mean, like, when do people retire? I mean, like, they keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah, I know. I keep trying to kick, and Lucy keeps pulling the football. Not you, Lucy, the one to Charlie Brown, Lucy, but same thing. So, okay, Rhonda, do you have a conspiracy theory?
Thank you.
Nope.
Okay.
The only difference between a theory and a fact is about 6 months.
Yeah, well, unless you're Lucy. Lucy knows them right now. So I'll give you a Pacers update here. It's 114 for the Knicks, 120 for the Pacers, and 3:06 left in the game. Looks like they got
okay, time to go watch the game.
Yep. Well, hey, Tiffany, I get to say my sentence.
Oh,
okay. I thought all week about this. So we're gonna have to go in that. We're gonna take the Sherman and Peabody Wayback Machine here on the Bullwinkle. You know, who remembers them on there? So we're gonna go way back to 2 years ago in Pennsylvania. There's this Fetterman. You know that guy? He's a senator, right? Fetterman. Okay. Well, here's the conspiracy. So he faked the stroke to get out of the Democrat Party. I mean, Lucy's shaking her head. She already knows. So that is, I mean, major news now that he's fake. Because you think about it, he's a whole different guy. Before he was, you know, total Brad. Now all this.
I think it was just so he could wear more sweatpants and like.
Well, that too.
Congress.
But
I don't think he owns anything with a button.
He's but he's like it's almost like well, you know, you remember the little boy that got the FBI badge or the CIA badge that was at the inauguration or at the State of the Union, and the kid was like 12 or whatever, 10 years old, but he spoke like he was like a 60-year-old man. So maybe his brain chemistry's you know, different. So I know we're way past Lucy's bedtime. Her Bud Light's kicking in. So that's good. All right. Well, this is we had requests for you to come back on, Rhonda. So when you have some more updates, when's your legislature? What's your legislature look like down there? Is it?
I think
like
it's about to end. I think it ends this weekend.
Okay, and then when do they start? They have 2 this year, or how is it?
No, they don't go for 2 years now.
What?
They go every 2 years.
So, oh man. Well, sort of keep us updated.
They gotta get shit done.
Wait, did they get paid that off year?
I'm gonna move down.
That is some shit. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm getting ready to launch on a major teamwork, I guess I would say, to take back North Central Texas. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. It's gonna be like Landman. Have you seen that Netflix Landman with Bobby? What's her name?
It's on
Billy Bob Thornton.
Plus.
Actually,
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton, some relative to Lisa, I believe. I don't know, like a cousin or something like that. Some weird. Oh, look, is that the game? Oh, that looked like a charge to me.
Yeah.
Okay, kids, let's call it a day. So let me get to the thing here. And hey, Rhonda, thanks for coming on.
Rhonda.
I just want to say,
Thanks for having me.
I've seen you from the start, and you have stuck with this, and you have really done a great job.
Well, thanks for all your support, John. I appreciate it.
Well, we're trying, and we'll have you back on maybe in 2 years after the legislature comes back in, since there's such a hurry. But no,
well, maybe after the Supreme Court hearing.
Yeah. Okay. When's that going down? Do you have?
It should come down anytime.
Okay. All right. Well, keep us updated. We'll have you on for a brief moment, which will probably turn into a 2.5-hour show.
All right.
So let's see here. Oh yeah, there's Spiro. Later, y'all. So everybody have a good week. Next week we don't know who we have. Maybe that Kramer's coming on 2 weeks, but I'll keep you posted. It's all good. So here we go. Let's see. Ending with Brad, Lucy, and Tiffany. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.